Hey humans, how you doing? Susan Ruth here. I want to say thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I've been getting some emails and people are reaching out to me on social media and saying really wonderful things, and I so very appreciate it. I very appreciate it. I don't even know if that's the correct grammar, but you know what? I don't care if it's not, because it's heartfelt, and sometimes heartfelt trumps grammar. But don't tell my mom I said that, because I don't think she would agree with me. So if you go to iTunes and you listen to Hey Human on the iTunes, please subscribe, please review, let me know what you think. And also at heyhumanpodcast.com, you can check out links. I always put up stuff about what the episode is about. I talk about different kinds of humans. I don't talk. I write about different kinds of humans. Not different kinds. I mean, they're all humans. They do different things. How about that? That's a better way to put it. You can reach out to me if you are so inclined. The email is susan@heyhumanpodcast.com. Love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, am I missing one? I think Instagram.com/heyhumanpodcast. I post pictures up there and that good stuff. So enough business. That is out of the way now. I am going to talk about this episode, which was a wonderful episode. I just finished listening to it because I listened to them to edit them, so I get to revisit everything. And this particular conversation is with Adam Shelby. He was incarcerated for 8 years, and he is an advocate now, and now that he is out. And we met actually through a mutual friend. Yeah, it was Adam's teacher in prison. Harlan Peace is my friend, and I assume also they are friends now. You probably have to maintain some kind of teacher-student relationship while the prison thing is happening. But outside, I assume that they are friends. Adam is a lovely man, funny, articulate, bright as a freaking light bulb, and it was just a delightful conversation. I really had a great time, and he bought me a cup of coffee, so he's also a gentleman. That being said, I don't have anything else to report other than I really enjoyed this episode. I know I say that every time, but it's true every time, and this one is no exception. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Adam Shelby.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
He's not wearing a beaded shirt. That was the blinds. That's nobody. People have to guess what. I guess I post pictures on the when I do the social media part, so that people know what the people look like that I'm talking to, but they have to use their imagination with outfits.
Do I get to pick out the picture?
Yeah, absolutely. Really? You can send it to me.
Awesome.
Yeah. Or it could be something that you like. It could be like a picture of a giraffe or something. I like giraffes.
Oh, giraffes are cool.
I think because I'm so tall.
We could do a selfie.
We could do a selfie. I don't do a lot of selfies.
I try not to. I got teenagers though. So.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
16 and 14. My son's 16. My daughter's 14.
That's so weird. You don't look old enough to have 16 and 14.
Well, I had started when I was like 10, so.
Yeah, it's good. Get it out of the way.
Yeah, just go ahead and knock it out of the way.
That way, when you're raising them up, y'all have the same common interests.
Well, like the way I look at it is like now, when I settle down and I'm planning on having another baby, and I have 2 babysitters, so.
That's smart. I always say that the kids are good once they hit a certain age. They're good for all the housework and yard work and all that.
Yeah, and my son was like, "Oh my God, we'll be like 18, 19 years apart. We don't have anything in common." I was like, "Yeah, you will, me."
Yeah, exactly. My eldest brother is 13 years older than I am. And
you guys get along pretty good. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, he didn't hate me. I don't hate him, so that's a good start.
That is a great
He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. So, it's funny too because there's 3 kids in my family and I'm the baby, and even though I really didn't know my eldest brother growing up because he was already gone, he moved out of the house when he was I think 15 or 16. Went off to do his thing, and So I didn't really have an experience of him, but weirdly, I think our personalities are far more similar than my brother that was with me all the time.
That's cool.
Isn't that interesting? I just find that so fascinating.
Well, I mean, because it makes sense because we get most of our, the way we act and our identity from our parents, so.
Yeah. Do you think that's true?
Yeah.
I think about that a lot, that nurture nature thing, and because
it depends on how close you were with your parents, I guess. I mean,
yeah, I feel like my brother that it was around, and and I are so different. It's like we were raised by different creatures.
Well, it's like how we react. I think it's all about reaction to what's like how you're being brought up.
Yeah, personality.
Some people embrace, some people buck, some people, you might take offense to something and hold it in your heart forever. Something that he might not.
That's true. Well, he was way shy, and I was the opposite of whatever that is. Never met a stranger, but although I am very shy, I really enjoy strangers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's weird, right?
I mean, that's a sign of high intelligence.
Is it?
When you're both, yeah. When you're introvert.
I always joke that I'm probably a sociopath, but it's only funny until someone gets killed.
Yeah.
But I see myself in that.
Sometimes it's fun just to say it, sociopath.
Yeah, it's a good word. Yeah. I've been watching Hannibal lately, and there was one of the killers said, well, people haven't used the word sociopath since the 60s. I'm like, I wonder what that's about. So now I have to go research that. Dang it.
Do they? I think they do. Yeah.
I would think they do too. A high-functioning sociopath. I mean, anyway, I digress. It's so good to have you here. Tell my listeners a little bit about yourself.
I'm 34. I'm a veteran.
Thank you for your service.
I'm from Illinois, from a small town called Marion. Although I've lived all over, that's where I claim as my home because I spent most of my teenage years there. So I moved around a lot when I was a kid. A lot of my family's in federal prison.
Oh, really?
So we moved around wherever they were at. So it's kind of like, how people are...
You mean they're incarcerated? You don't mean they work for the prison?
No, they're incarcerated.
Okay, yeah.
So, some people are Army brats. I'm a prison brat.
So are they significant members of the family, like close members that are incarcerated?
Yes, my father was until I was 11. My father died in prison.
Oh, my gosh.
Then my grandfather's still in there. He's in Supermax in Florence, Colorado.
What's the difference between Max and Supermax?
He doesn't have any contact with human beings at all.
Whoa, that can't be healthy.
No.
I see. We're going to digress a lot in this conversation, I'm sure, but
yeah, it's fine.
The idea of putting somebody in isolation, that's torture to me. I mean, maybe they're murderers or really bad people, but I still don't think that you should take away that. I mean, that makes people crazy. Isolation makes people crazy. Oh, yeah,
especially 14 years of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just, from my personal belief system, that is wrong.
He reads his mail on a screen, so he doesn't even get that much. He has to, it's like...
What did he do? Or what was he accused of?
Him, my father, and my uncle were all involved in a RICO case. So if you don't know anything about RICO, it's basically they can if they can prove that 3 or more people are doing a crime together, they consider it organized crime. And so the statutes for sentencing change, and it automatically becomes a life per whatever it is you did.
No way.
So they got kidnapping, racketeering, and tax evasion charges, 3 life sentences apiece.
For tax evasion, they got a life sentence?
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't seem just at all.
Well, I mean, that's actually how they ended up getting Al Capone and John Gotti.
I think I do remember reading about that. That's generally how they get some quote-unquote mastermind criminals, is they get them on these other kind of crimes.
They couldn't catch them. Basically, they were allegedly moving large amounts of heroin from Sicily to America.
Your family?
Allegedly, yeah. And so they, they couldn't catch them doing that, so they pinned other things on them that were probably sketchy. But back then, it's like people didn't really care. They're just like, get the criminals off the street. They didn't think like, oh, they might be innocent, or you don't really have enough evidence. How can you convict somebody when back then they just didn't really care.
Has your grandfather tried to appeal the case?
Yeah, he's ran out of appeals. Yeah, mostly because he killed a guard whenever he was in prison.
That probably didn't stand well.
Yeah, so I guess the guard attacked him first or antagonized him, and he just was like, he's like, I got life. I don't have to put up with this. You know?
It's a really complicated situation because I know there are corrupt guards. There's just corruption in humanity, period. So I don't care which side of the law you're on. There's corruption on either side.
I think you back somebody in a corner in any situation. I mean, like, you seem well-rounded and like a nice person, but if I put you in a room with animals and come back in 2 weeks, you're going to be an animal.
I agree with you completely.
So you have to...
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, you have to adapt or you'll get swallowed up.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. It seems to me that if a prisoner is attacked by a guard, that the guard, first of all, the guard shouldn't be attacking a prisoner or antagonizing him at all, period. Yeah. He's serving his time. He's doing what he's meant to be done, his sentence. But to do that and then to turn around and blame that's a victim, if you ask me. Even if he's in jail for something heinous, if the guard, started it and the prisoner's life was in jeopardy, that's an extreme circumstance that should be looked at.
Yes, yeah.
But if people in prison aren't considered people anymore.
No, you're property, yeah. So, I've been reading up on a lot of prisons lately, like in Norway and Scotland and stuff like that, and they have really successful programs in there because they just treat them like people.
Like human beings.
And they don't set... When you here in America, when you go to prison, that's not just your punishment. Your punishment goes on and on because they find more ways to punish you while you're in there for every little thing. Like your bed's not made, you're not going to visit, or just stuff like that. I'll write you up now. You wrote me up. Now my points changed. Now I'm not going to make parole. Now so it's like me not making my bed just affected how much longer I stay in prison, as opposed to like saying, making programs that are making me come out already part of society. So like Norway, for example, they do job training instead of making them work for free. They do job training, then they pay them so they have money and they have a skill when they get out. They have a set skill, and they don't
reoffend.
Yeah, they don't come back. They have like a 5% recidivism rate.
Yeah, I've been reading up on that as well.
Yeah, so
frankly, American prison system is broken, and it hopefully not beyond repair, but it's certainly broken. Maybe
I don't know that I agree with that. I think it's not broken at all. I think it's doing exactly what it's designed to do.
Oh, well, there's a good point.
Yeah. It's designed
from my perspective, that's broken, but it's designed to be broken. It's not designed to rehabilitate or help or get addicts there, sober or, Then I was listening to something, I can't remember. Oh, you know what? It was my own podcast. Zach Scow, who's on one of my podcasts, he was talking. He does a lot of work inside the prison system, really great programs, and he said, in America, if you're in jail or in prison, there's a difference. In prison, you're going to pick up more skills that do not benefit society. Those skills, because they're not on the other side. Nobody's going, let's try and make it so you don't ever come back to this place.
Well, if I'm making 17 cents an hour, and let's say I don't have anybody, or I have a long-term sentence, nobody's going to want to send me $50, $100 every month for 18 years or whatever my sentence is. So at some point, you have to make a hustle. You have to learn how to survive. You can't just be like survive off of $20 a month, $25 a month.
No, because they also charge you for things in the commissary. It costs money to buy things.
Oh, yeah, and
basic human
overpriced.
Things.
Yeah,
in the women's prison, they were charging women for tampons and things.
Overpriced too, probably.
Yeah,
anything you actually need, they figure out what you need or what everybody's buying, and they'll keep jacking the price up on it.
And privatized prison systems incentivizes them to keep prisoners in jail because they make money that way.
Yeah.
So you came from a family of people who were incarcerated.
Yeah, I'm fourth generation.
Do you think that led you on your path? Which we haven't discussed yet, but your path being that you were also incarcerated.
Yeah, so when I was in the military, as I mentioned before.
Thank you for your service, if I didn't say that already.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. I appreciate it. That was my pleasure. So after I got out of there, it's like really hard. I couldn't find a job. It was just, it's not like it is now. back then there weren't programs for veterans. There wasn't anything for us when we got out to like help us train for a job or anything like that. And so it's like, as I'm going out looking for a job, I signed up for school, and as I'm going out and looking for a job, it's like everywhere I went, they're like, you don't have any skills. Like, you know how to kill people. That's not a skill we can use here. You know, it's like,
unless you're working for Liam Neeson.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So yeah, I had been hanging out with some of my friends, and that had got out as well a little bit before me. Got out of the
military, yeah.
Yeah, out of the military. So some guys from my platoon, and I noticed that they all had money and stuff like that, and I knew something was going on. So after a couple months, I approached them and was like, "What are you guys doing? Like, I need some money. I'm about to lose my house and my car." And so what they were doing is allegedly robbing drug dealers, and then using that money to support their families. So it's like basically
So they were using their skills as military to get
basically what we were already doing over there, kicking in doors, and instead of collecting information, they were collecting money.
Which war did you serve?
I was in Afghanistan and Iraq. Iraqi Freedom Operation Enduring Freedom. Yeah. So they ended up getting busted and did some time. I think they each got like a 15-year sentence in the feds. I hadn't been around them long enough, I guess, to where I got caught up in it, and so then I at some point ended up selling cocaine, and I got caught, and I got an 18-year sentence.
Whoa.
I served 7 years on 18 years. So
18 years for selling cocaine. That seems excessive.
Crack cocaine. Yeah.
Do they make a?
Yes, the federal laws have changed, but the state laws haven't changed. So the crack is a bigger. It's the sentencing guidelines are higher because crack cocaine is mainly a urban drug. So they assume if you're selling crack, you're black.
Say black. Yeah.
Well, they assume if you're selling crack, you're black. So
the idea is get all the black people into jail, and therefore the law's stricter.
Right. So I talked to Michelle Alexander about it. I don't know if you know she is. She wrote the New Jim Crow, and she was saying, just like she was saying in her book, I was talking to her about her saying that me as a white male being in the prison system, I'm just a casualty of war. So we were talking about that, and I was telling her how before I was in the military and during the military, and a lot of the time when I first got out of the military, all I was around were black people. So I never really knew that I had white privilege until I got out of prison and I was around white people. And then I saw it, and saw that they know that they have it, So it's like I might make a comment like, "Hey, you better put on your seatbelt," and one of my white friends say, "Oh, I'm white. They're not going to pull me over." So it's like things that I've noticed, and like, whereas like I was in a college prison program while I was in prison. It's a program ran by Tennessee Higher Education Initiative. Shout out to Julie Duchin. I forgot where I was going.
No, I'm sorry. I did. There's a bunny that just hopped by the window, and I made him stop and look at the bunny, so I completely blew his train off the tracks there. You were talking about white privilege, and then
I noticed some of my black brothers from the program, when they get out, it's like they don't have the same people wanting to help them that I do. So I have all these people, professors and whatnot, and it seems like just everybody wants to help me accomplish whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Because you're white.
Whereas them, I can be a poster boy. Whereas the black guys, it's almost like they're like, "Oh, he's probably going back," Yeah. So,
but statistically, he is.
None of them have gone back.
Oh, good. That makes me happy.
Yeah, one of my brothers has been out for like almost 3 years now, and he's right on the cusp. So within 3 years, they're saying you got really high percentage.
That makes me happy because I feel like a lot of times the prison system is just one giant hanging tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it can be, you know, many times I could have slipped up, or you know, it's just they own you. You know, they're always on you. It never goes away. Like, I get off parole next month, and for me, it's not a huge milestone. I know I'm always under their thumb because I'm a felon.
How long have you been out?
Almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it hard to find work?
No, it wasn't. Like I said, luckily I had a lot of people wanting to help me. Mm-hmm. It was hard to adjust to being around people, and I'm still not adjusted. I'm still not fully adjusted. Yeah, it's hard to find. It's hard to find work, and it's not. If that makes sense. Like, I ended up having to quit my first job when I got out because it's just too far, and I ride a scooter, so having trouble getting my license. That's another huge problem for guys getting out. It's hard.
They don't give you a driver's license?
No, they make it really hard for you to get your license back. Yeah,
Why is that?
I'm not sure.
Huh. Again, making it difficult to get a job if you don't have a car.
Right, because most jobs require that you have a driver's license and you know, transportation. So yeah, so then, but when I quit my job, then I saw how hard it was for me to find another job. So I just kind of had to invent my own job. I just started doing social media stuff, and luckily I came. Like I said, I just keep coming around. Across people that just want to help me, and it makes me sad for my brothers, and like it motivates me to do well so that I can maybe help them in some way. I think
that's a noble purpose, absolutely. Yeah. So you were in the military, and how long did you serve?
5 years.
Now, it's my understanding that GI stands for government issue, meaning you're really property of the government as well there. So there's a strange irony to being in the military and then being in the prison system in that you're still owned in both cases. Were there similarities at all?
Oh yeah, of course. When you know, you could probably follow somebody through their initial process of getting in the military and follow somebody through initial process of getting in prison, and it's very similar.
Interesting.
Shave your hair, which makes you samey. We want you all to be the same. We want you to know as soon as you come in here, you're the same. You're not different. You're not
a beautiful individual flower.
No, you're not. So, and then, you know, just the way everything is, you know, just no talking, hands behind your back, look at the ground, don't look at me. Here, this is your uniform now. Here, this is your home now. We own you now. You know, and then obviously going through some sort of initiation. You know, it's like, when you go into prison, they're gonna try you as soon as you walk in. The other inmates are gonna try you as soon as you go in there. So you're gonna fight as soon as you get there. So same with Army. You may not be in a physical fight. You're in a mental fight as soon as you get there. They're mentally messing with you the minute you get there. So they're very similar, very, very similar. Yeah, I didn't find much difference in. You find guys towards the end of their time in the military counting down the days, just like in prison, counting down until they get out, or they'll talk to each other like that. So when you get out,
yeah,
and just like in prison. So when you get out,
yeah.
So
do you feel like the skills you learned in the military helped you survive in prison? Because you were in max.
Oh yeah,
were you in maximum security?
I was not.
No.
I was not. I was in the county jail, but I was not in the prison.
Do you think there's big differences when you go from one to the other as far as how individual inmates behave and such, or do you think it's pretty much the same?
Oh no, there's a general set of rules, you know, but as far as like some prisons, you'll have a little bit more freedom. Mm-hmm. You have to like walk around and move around and smoke weed if you smoke weed, or do whatever it is that you do. And then some prisons, they're on top of it. Any little thing, like I said, making your bed wrong, you can be written up for it. And you get somebody right up, you go to the hole, or that one right up, they can send you to the hole. They can send you to solitary confinement.
Solitary, yeah.
Yeah. So in that sense, I have been to solitary confinement. So
what was that like?
I kind of enjoyed it. Just getting ready. I had all my books, and I didn't have to listen to yelling and screaming all night and doors slamming, and so it's kind of actually peaceful. But You know.
How long were you in the hole for?
When I was in the county, I was in the hole for about a year.
You were in solitary for a year?
Close to a year, yeah.
Why?
Just got into it with a guard when I first came in. And, so I just kept telling him, quit putting your hands on me, quit touching me. You don't have to touch me. I'm doing what you want me to do. And so then another cop that knew me, he was like, man, he's cool. Just quit messing with him. And then he was like, F him, and like pushed me, and then I got into a fight with him. So
again, that provocation.
Yeah. And then he didn't get in trouble, I did.
Yeah.
And then he'd come to my cell every other day and talk junk,
In solitary?
Bang on my door in the middle of the night, wake me up and mess with me. He quit after a while, but it was just they turned when I first got in the cell, my light was off, so I said, can somebody turn my light on? When they came around to do the trays, can somebody? And he's like, yeah, I'll turn your light on. Then they left my light on for 6 months. Couldn't get them to turn it off. Now you got to make up your mind. You want your light on or you want your light off? So finally, I was like, please just turn my light off. Please turn my light off. So they turned it off for the rest of the time I was in there. So about five more months.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, so reading books by trying to get light from the hallway, reading books.
Thank God for books.
Yeah, that was probably my saving grace in there. That's what kept me going is, I guess coming back to, like getting this confidence and coming back to like this realization, like, wow, I'm really smart. So for me, that saved me, that in college.
Where did you go to school?
Where do I go now? Lipscomb University.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, when I first got out, I was going to Nashville State, and then I applied to Belmont, Vanderbilt, and Lipscomb. I got accepted to all of them, but I decided to go to Lipscomb because I just like the culture, and I like that the class sizes are smaller, and it's just more personal.
What are you studying?
Marketing and fashion merchandising.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you want to do with that?
I keep going to school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm kind of doing what I want to do now. I'm doing social media stuff. That's kind of my thing. So I'd like to, someday I would like to get into fashion somehow. I think that's, I've read a lot about it, and that's just a way to get your foot into the door in the fashion industry because so many people are trying to be designers or, whatever. And so that's a good way to get your foot in the door is be like a buyer or something along those lines.
Do you want to design?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you design? What's your thing?
I'm not doing anything. I'm not designing anything. Yeah, I'm taking the steps first.
I understand. So, sure. I didn't know if you doodle something. And
yeah. I do that. Yeah, mostly women's clothing, children's clothing. So
cool.
I think I'll probably start with children's clothing.
Awesome. Is it hard? Is there any kind of steps you have to take as a felon to get into school, or are they pretty much?
No.
That's good.
No, they especially. I had somebody at Lipscomb that helped me with the whole process. I was just honest about everything because there were like holes in my
life.
In my life that they were like, what happened? What happened here? And I was like, well, I was in prison. And they're like, oh, okay, well, that's not a big deal. And then there's a guy, Richard Good. He's the head of the life program at the. I think it's the women's prison. Yeah, the college program at the women's prison, and he helped me a lot. So
that's great. Talk about so I know you because of this is the first time we've met, but I know you because of my friend Harlan Peace, who is a teacher at the prison, and he said that you were one of his favorite students, very bright and interesting, and if you were willing to talk to me, he would make that happen. So thanks, shout out to Harlan.
Yeah.
Talk about the class and what that's all about. Because
the program or his class in general,
both what the program in general, and then what that fostered for you to be in that class.
So the program, I had been on a talking fast for 30 days. So I was doing fasts where I wouldn't say a word, I wouldn't talk at all, just because I did it for a week, and I saw such a change in myself and the way I saw things that I was like, I'm going to do this longer.
You mean like a meditation almost, or like?
No, I just would not talk at all.
Okay, so it was more of a defiance than a.
No,
describe what that means.
I did it for a day. I think that my grandpa used to tell me when I was little that we have 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So we listen and we watch, listen, we talk. So
it's good advice.
Yeah, so I just was noticing myself like getting caught up in the drama of prison and like, you know, just, I don't know. I guess I more or less did it just as a way for me to try to observe not just myself, but everything around me a little bit more, you know. And so I was on the end of that, of a 30-day fast of that, and it's, if anybody wants to try it, it's crazy.
You literally didn't speak?
No, not one word. Not one word.
Did your friends in prison understand what you were doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
They know I'm weird, so.
I don't think you're weird.
So, yeah, I guess when I explained it to them, they understood, but they were just like, I couldn't do that.
So, okay, so you're fasting for 30 days from speaking.
Yeah, my friend, a friend of mine that was in the program, Dylan, I don't know if he'd want me to say his whole name, so.
Okay.
Dylan, he had been, like, trying to get me to come out of my shell for that, like, a year straight. I had just been, like, really quiet and kind of, like, just meditating on how I wanted my life to be and what kind of man I wanted to be, you know, because when I first got into prison, I was just kind of wild, and I was just like, screw it, I'm going to be here forever. I might as well just be an animal, you know. But then at some point, I just got to where I was like, this is not who I am. It's not who I want to be. And so he told me, we were working out, and he was like, hey, I want you to come tonight. They're having this thing for a college program, and they're going to start college here. And I just didn't really think anything about it. I was like, nah, they're not going to. For whatever reason, I thought that I wouldn't be able to get in. You know, I was like, I won't pass the test or whatever, you know. We have to take, like, it's called a compass. It's similar to, like, a ACT. You know, it's just smaller ACT or whatever.
See what your level is.
Yeah. So.
Because there's probably a high illiteracy rate in prison, I would imagine.
Super high.
Yeah.
Very high, yeah. And I'll touch on that here in a minute, but yeah. So anyway, I ended up going. I took the test. I ended up passing with flying colors, everything except the math, and I was getting tutored by a friend of mine, so I could pass it the next time it came around. So they still let me in college, but I couldn't take a math class until I passed the math part of the compass.
So another prisoner tutored you in mathematics,
right?
Okay.
So then...
the reason why I keep making these points is because I think it's very easy to vilify someone that's been to prison. For the rest of the world who's never been to prison, judgment goes flying everywhere. Right?
Yeah.
So I just want to make these little points, like another prisoner tutored you in mathematics. These are not horrible people. These are human beings. At the bottom, they may have made horrible choices. They may have done horrible things, but you can trace that back to an event or an upbringing or whatever. Yeah. So it's really important to me to make that clarification that these are human beings, people. So anyway, go on. Sorry.
Well, I mean, that's the way I do a lot of speaking engagements, and that's the way I start out every speech. As I say, I want everybody to. Hold on, I always get emotional.
No, it's okay. I get emotional too. I'm a total crier. Seriously.
When it comes to this, I am, because I think about them locked up. So the way I start out every speech is I say, I want everybody in here to think about their worst moment when you were just like, you did something really trashy, or you just really did something that you're not proud of. Think about that worst moment that in your life, and now freeze yourself in that moment. And now I get to remind you every single day for the rest of your life of that one moment.
That's prison.
Well, that's being a felon, I guess. You know, not even prison. I mean, there's guys that are felons that haven't been to prison, but they are in that situation where you're reminded every day. I mean, I think prison maybe leaves a sharper image in your head of what, you know, the what the consequences were of your actions, you know. So you have like this thing that's with you all the time, sort of like a PTSD type thing, where it's like you can never shake that. You can never shake the feeling, or I can never shake like looking around as I'm walking, or like sitting with my back to the wall, or you know, I can't shake certain things, just or like, you know, just certain things, certain ways that I do things. It's like things I can't shake. I can't really shake them no matter how hard I try.
This is sort of off the path that we were walking down, but is there a high instance of military in the prison system?
Yes.
Because I mean, I think
it's growing.
Yeah,
it's growing.
You train people to be a killer and to be a machine and less of a mind. They don't really want free thought.
And then you kick them out on the street, and don't, you know, it's
give
like
them no skills.
That was my family. Now, you know, then they just basically cut you off. They don't, you know, it's like, wow, you know, it's like we like fought with each other and had each other's back. And now you don't know me, you know. It's kind of that kind of thing where you're just kind of it's a huge shock to your system.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the so your friends tutored you on math. You're prepared to take the test again.
Right. So the next time it comes around, the next semester it comes around, and I pass the math. Then I end up being the tutor. So I ended up tutoring for the rest of the time I was in there.
That's
I ended
awesome.
up I spent most of my time in the education center, in the library. That was where the majority of my time was spent. Luckily, I was in some different programs, a mental health program and a drug program.
What do you mean by that? You were in them as in you were seeking help, or you were helping others?
No, they have these certain programs. So you live in a unit, and all those guys are in the program, and you have classes throughout the day and stuff like that. You may have a job in there. So I would spend most of my time. That gave me freedom to be at the library and be in the education center, and so I spent most of my time up there helping guys learn how to read that were trying to get their GED. They put them in GED classes, but they couldn't even read, so they would separate them. And so they had like a slow class, and then they had like a class where it was guys that could actually get their GED. The other class was like, these guys are never getting their GED, you know, that type of thing. And that was like the general attitude, and I saw that, so I was like, I want to help. So I went to the teacher and Miss Butler, and I was like, you know, I want to help some of these guys learn how to read. And literally one of the guys that I was helping was like, A, apple, B, ball, that type of thing. And I'm not making fun of him.
No, I totally get what you're saying.
I had to teach him the alphabet first.
Sure.
Because he didn't even know the whole alphabet. And he was like 25, 26 years old.
Yeah.
So I think the bigger picture, there's a lot of illiteracy. And probably in the southern states, there's probably even a bigger instance of illiteracy. So that's a big issue. And I think I wrote a paper about it at some point, and I included Mr. Pease in one of his classes. He had told us a story. Yeah. He had told us a story about his dad being good friends with the local judge. His dad talked the local judge into offering a class where you read a book and you give a book report instead of jail time. So he would give them that option. If, say, they were to nonviolent crime, you know, he would say, all right, you can go to jail for 60 days or you can take this class. And he said surprisingly a lot of people took the jail time, but the people that took the class didn't come back. And so it's like, for me, that was powerful. Like, a book can keep you from coming back. You know, it's like, if that doesn't like make people wake up and say, well, there's something to this, where if we, instead of saying, oh, if we educate them, they might become criminals. Well, look at it from another stance and say, or better, you know, they're going to be smart criminals now, you know, and instead of saying like, oh, this will empower them to become something more, to become something greater, and to feel a part of something bigger than the streets or prison or, you know, whatever kind of situation they're in. You know, I mean, let's be honest, most people in prison come from poverty. So
absolutely, it's very easy to look down from an ivory tower at a choice someone makes that doesn't have any opportunity, doesn't have really parenting or, you know, education of any kind. They're considered throwaways. They aren't actually throwaways, obviously. They're considered that by those who are judging them from a.
No, I mean, I think when you get out, when I got out, I just had a choice. It's a choice I had to make. It's like, do I go back to where I was living, and go back to my life, or do I struggle and have nobody or nothing and make a different life for myself? And
did you see the class you were taking impacting the other students the way it was impacting you?
Oh yeah. So we have one of the guys in there. His name's David. He's an OG Rolling 60 Crip. So at one time he was over all the Crips in the state. So it's the original gangster. It's a rank. It's a high ranking gang member, and he did what they call, he dropped his flag, or he got out of the gang. Basically, he just told him.
Well, you're allowed to do that? I didn't think.
No, he's OG. So they're not going to kill him. They can't do anything to him, really. He was just like, I'm done. So
an OG literally means something that's sort of a founding father.
Well, they're just the older guys in the gang, and maybe they put in what they call more work. Yeah. So they probably, whatever that means.
Sure.
I don't want to.
I know, I get it.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, we don't have to go into detail there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
so they do different things to get rank.
Sure.
Various things to get rank.
So he was in the class.
Yeah, and he dropped his flag, got out of the gang, and I feel like me and him were, not patting myself on the back, but I feel like me and him were like the dads of the class. Like, almost really like I was the mom, because everybody would come to me like if they needed help, or hey, I need to talk to Miss Duchin or Dr. Duchin. That's the executive director of the program. At the time, it was just her and nobody else. So I was like her aide, like I did everything because she couldn't be in there like that. Like she couldn't just be there all day, every day like me. So I ended up being kind of like the mom and him kind of like the dad. Like if people were getting loud, and he'd be like, hey, we're trying to learn here. Be quiet, that type of thing. He didn't really have to do that in Mr. Harlan P's class, because Mr. P, he's not playing that. He's like, look, we only have X amount of time. Yeah. We need to learn. We need to go over this.
He's like a quiet badass. He's very sort of Clint Eastwood in that way.
Yeah. He has that gaze where you're like, oh, he's getting mad.
Yeah, he's a very bright man.
Yeah. So he only had to do that, I think, with our class one time, and everybody just fell in line.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was a special time and a special group of people, because we all wanted to set an example so that the next class could continue, so another cohort could come in.
Were you the very first?
Yeah, we were the first cohort.
So you were the founding fathers of that particular program. Yeah.
So
you almost had that burden of success, because if you didn't, the program could go away.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a heavy burden.
Yeah, and it was.
You rose to the challenge.
Yeah, it was voiced. The warden at the time, really good guy, and
who's the warden? Guy.
He's a really good guy. I don't know if he would want me to say his name.
Okay, so. That's fine. Yeah.
Really good guy. He was like a champion for us in the program, and he was like...
That makes me happy, because I kind of diss on the prison system a bit, because I get frustrated by the way people are treated, but and that they aren't given services to make things better when they get out, to give them options. But I'm glad to hear that these programs exist. Thank God. I wish there were more of them, but I'm glad to know that they are being implemented.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. The initiative, Dr. Duchin, they just got money from the state perpetually, $250,000 a year perpetually. So unless another law is passed saying that they can't give them that much money, that's how much they'll get until the program either goes away or whatever,
Sure. Did you have other prisoners come out to you and asking about the program?
Well, I was, I actively recruited recruited people that I saw. I saw potential in, so I actively recruit. Like, hey man, whenever testing comes back around, you should try. Oh man, I can't do that. Like, that's what I said, and I'm like, I'm a straight A student. It's like I'm teaching the other guy, helping the other guys learn. So
yeah,
it's like, it's always funny to me. The guy who was tutoring me, his name's Ernest Walter. I know he won't care if I say his name. So he was the guy that was tutoring me. And when he does speaking engagements now, he always tells that story about him tutoring me, and then him walking in one day and I'm tutoring a whole class.
Yeah, that's amazing. What a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a great opportunity, and I think that for me that was like I don't know how to explain it, the fulcrum or the turning point in my life where it was like I can go this way or I can go that way. And I still have my struggles, since I've been out. It's like,
what do you struggle with?
Struggle with alcohol. I can't sleep, so my excuse, I guess I could just say it's an excuse to drink. I can't sleep, so I drink to go to sleep.
PTSD, and, can't sleep kind
right.
of thing. Yeah.
I'm in therapy. I take antidepressants, and so it's like I still have my own struggles. I don't want you to think it's like, I'm all peachy keen. It's like, obviously have money struggles. I have to work 2 jobs just to make up one job, what one job would pay me, and go to school and raise my son and raise my daughter from afar. And, so it's like.
Are your children actively in your life?
Oh, yeah. My son lives with me. He's, and my daughter lives in Chattanooga, but we talk 3 or 4 times a day. She's
great.
She's like my mom.
Yeah.
Did you eat today? What'd you eat? You're not lying to me, are you?
That's cute.
Yeah, so I call her little mama. So yeah, so it's still a lot. It's still a lot of struggle, and it's still a lot of like, I guess it's not so much like society holding me back, and in a lot of instances, it's myself. Because I'm afraid to. It's like almost I'm afraid that I'm gonna succeed and then have everything taken from me. So it's like this fear of like. Hey, I know I can do this. I know I can be this person, or I know that I can succeed at this thing and be super successful and bring honor to the college program, bring honor to myself and my family, show my kids like that wasn't me. That's not cool. This is who I am. This is cool. School is cool. Being smart is cool.
Yeah, well, our country is sort of ignoring the fact that being smart is cool.
Yeah, I know.
It's getting a little weird out there.
Yeah, it's a problem. Yeah, it's getting super weird.
So, if you don't mind, if you would talk about what a day in the life of being in the prison system, what it's like from sun up to sundown, or you know what I mean? Like what?
Well,
what was your
it's hard for me because I don't want people to think that my experience is other people's experience. For some people, it's way worse than me. It's like
Why do you think that is?
I established a name for myself in the beginning, and established. I just basically let people know not to ever mess with me.
How do you do that?
In the beginning, I'd rather not talk about it. But basically, people trying me and trying to.
They mess with you, so you have to.
Yeah, trying to see where my heart is, and I showed them where my heart was,
right.
And they quit messing with me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but then there's other guys who their entire time in prison they're being picked on and beat up and whatever, and then there's other guys, where I could have took another route and joined a gang, and then that life is totally different. Like your life isn't your own, and your life is the gang. They tell you what to do, where to go, who to hang out with.
So there's a microcosm that.
Yeah, there's little clusters inside, So you have the Muslims. The Muslims are kind of a gang. They hang out and look out for each other. If you're a Muslim, you don't go anywhere else and ask for anything. Not a stamp, not a soup, nothing. You stay in your community. That's the same with most whites. They'll stay with whites. Christians stay with Christians, so on and so forth. So I was kind of like, there's this minority of guys that are just on the fringes. People just leave them alone.
You were a fringe guy.
Yeah. So I just kind of did my own thing, and everybody always call me the nerd or the book guy or professor. They'd always call me professor because I would always be reading or like something. Yeah. I'm always reading something, or I'm like writing. Even before I was in the college class, I was like, I'd write. I had like a journal where I was talking to this person. And I just waited for me to get my thoughts and feelings out, and like,
sure,
I didn't have anybody to talk to, so I talked to the paper.
Makes sense. We didn't really get to touch much on the talk fasting, which was so interesting. Will you talk about that and actually go further into that? Because I think I asked something different and we went down another path.
Yeah, so I think that at some point I realized that I was comfortable with chaos and comfortable with like things being hectic, and like for me that I was like looked at. I just started looking at it. I've been riding with my grandfather. We had to get it approved. It took a long time. It took like 2 months to get it approved. But riding him, and he's telling me stuff like, at the end of the day, all you have is your virtue. They can take everything else from you.
This is your grandfather who's incarcerated.
Yeah, and he's like, but you have that, and he's like. It's
in Leviticus, right?
He's like, I know you're lying to me. I know you're in there wilding out because you're acting crazy. You're in there acting crazy because you're my grandson. He's like, you can't lie to me. I know that you're in there acting crazy. And he said, I want you at night to start when you lay down for 10, 15 minutes, just think about what kind of man you were that day. What kind of man do you want to be tomorrow? So that's something I started thinking about, and that brought on like the talking fast. So I just did it for half a day, then I did it for a day, then I did it for a week, then I took a few weeks off, and then I was like, I'm going to do it for like a month. And you hear and you see, and it changed your perspective about everything, I just started seeing the way things were, and it was like, it's like in the prison system, it's like everybody's playing some role that they feel like they have to play. The guards, which I actually met a lot of cool ones, and I'm still friends with a few of them. They have this uniform and they have to act that part, even though that's not really the way they want to act. They really want to be nice. They really want to be like friends with us and like be nice and like care about us and like mentor us. Some of them are older, so like. That's what they really want to do, but they're told not to do that, not to have any kind of personal relationship with us, not to look at us as people. One of the guards told me that's what they told him in training. These are not people, these are animals. Ugh. You're there to babysit, and that's it. You're not there to be their friend. You're not there to care about what's going on with them, And luckily, I met some really cool ones. A couple of times I ran into some problems. And luckily, several guards showed up to my rescue and were like, "No, he didn't do that. Like he had nothing to do with that. He's a nerd. He's not into any of that. That's his cellies or whatever. Whatever the situation was." About 3 different times they came to my aid. One time it was the warden. He walks into them getting ready to send me to the hole, and he walks in and goes, "Let him out."
Wow.
So. I guess I found favor in that I was just me. I didn't try to be like some kind of like gangster or like be like whatever, I could have done that easily, and that would have got me nowhere. I would have been in the hole, it wouldn't have got me anywhere. So I just decided, during all that, it's like seeing all these roles everybody's playing and stuff like that, and I kind of just was thinking about what my grandma say about just thinking about who I want to be, and I just was like, I want to be me.
I think it's really beautiful that your grandfather said that stuff to you. And again, the irony of him being incarcerated and without contact of other humans because he's in solitary that's such a gift for you that you were able to talk to him. You still communicate with him?
No, I think he doesn't want to think about freedom. Yeah.
Sure.
So he doesn't really. I've wrote him several times. He won't write me back. So that's okay. He'll write me when he wants to, but. I think he just doesn't. I think writing me reminds him like I got out and he didn't.
Sure.
So.
And your father passed away in the prison system.
Yeah.
Did you reconcile with that?
What do you?
I imagine that's got to be a very intense thing.
Well, I think for me, it's the whole thing is like motivation for me to for my son not to go. That's my biggest fear. And I carry like this anxiety with me about it everywhere. Like, it's like he lives with me now, and so it's like I just want to know where he's at and what he's doing all the time, and he doesn't understand that. He thinks I don't trust him. And it's not. I'm like, it's not that I don't trust you. It's just that I guess you could call it the sins of the father, passed on just keep getting passed on. I want to stop that. I want to stop the cycle and stop my son from going to prison or being in any trouble.
That awareness, and you just even saying that out loud, I think is all the difference in the world.
Yeah, because statistically he's going.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you've been, and your father, and your father's father. Yeah.
Because
cycles are a motherfucker.
They are a motherfucker, and they're just, it's like when, like me being raised, and that's how I was raised, going every weekend to a prison visiting room. So it's like
that became normal.
It's normalized, and so I'm like, that's not a big deal. Even, when I got busted, I was like, well, this is just part of it. Every once in a while, I'll go to prison, and so it's. Like instead of me thinking of it as like, wow, this is really messing my life up, I was like, oh, it's just a job hazard. So I'll go to prison every once in a while, and didn't think twice. When I first in there, just like didn't even cross my mind that I was gonna try to change or anything. It's like, this is who I am. This is the cards I was dealt. I kept saying, this is all I know. This is all I know. This is all I know. And then Dr. Duchin, the executive director of the college program, one day overheard me saying that. It was the first part of our first semester, and she pulled me aside. She said, well, what were you talking about? And I was like, well, I just kind of feel like I am stuck in this. I don't have a choice. I feel like when I get out, I'd have to do the same thing. They're leaving me with no choice. This is all I know. And so she was like, well, don't be a dumbass. Change what you know. And I was like,
it's a good motto in life.
Yeah, she's like, just change what you know. Just change what you know. If you're sitting there saying, well, this is all I know. This is just how I was raised. And she's like, well, you can change that. That's a behavior, or that's something in your head you've been telling yourself for so long, and now you're bringing it to fruition. She's like, just change it. Just change what you're...
That's a very powerful, simple thing, isn't it?
Very simple, yeah. So,
wow.
I just kind of... I think I was just hearing stuff that my grandpa was telling me and what other people are telling me now. Whereas I think before I never really listened, And something else my mom's dad used to say is an empty wagon makes the most noise. And that was another part of my... talk fast was like, I don't want to be an empty wagon. I want to have depth and character and virtue and.
Wow, it's amazing. It's wonderful. I knew this would be such a great conversation.
Yeah.
I did. I just knew it. I knew it would be. What if you could get a specific message out there to people about people like you that have been through the system or are in the system, or maybe dispel a myth or two,
Well, I just think in general, if you, like when I do speaking engagements, it's like when I step up there, I've already been talking to people and meeting people beforehand, and then whenever they call my name, everybody's like, I'll see certain people look like, what?
I just talked to this guy and he seemed so normal.
Yeah, and so something that in a couple of my speeches I've said this, and it's, I'm your brother, I'm your son. So
yeah, absolutely. Talk about what it's like to give. Did you do speaking engagements?
Yeah, I do speaking engagements. I've done several at Belmont. I've done a couple at Vanderbilt. I did one at a huge conference for. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a conference for basically people discussing incarceration in America. And there's different panels. Some of them might be like abolitionist or reformist, or my panel was about education inside the prison system and how it can transform America, So you have this huge population of people that are disenfranchised, and education can change that because, if I go to a job interview and, I say, well, I was in prison and that's it. But I can go now and say, I was in prison and I have a college degree. I got my degree while I was in prison, and that changes the whole people's perspective of you, And so, anyway, I did one, like, I think I was out like 3 weeks, and I did that one, and that was pretty nerve-wracking. And so just talking about, usually I touch on, hey, I'm your brother, I'm your son, I'm your neighbor. It's like it can happen to anybody. It's not. Don't look at it as like you're not a part of it. You are a part of it. If you stand by and watch these things happening, you're a part of it. You're a part of the problem. And it's like, and if people don't know that there's a problem, it's hard to blame people. And say, oh, well, you're just standing by and watching it. Well, if they don't know, people don't know these things are happening, or don't know that, like my story, for example, it's like, you could look at, it's like most people are just one mistake away of ruining their lives, and being locked up. And so,
have you had people come up to you after these lectures and say, you just completely changed my whole...
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, so... towards, I'll try not to make eye contact while I'm while I'm speaking, because I get emotional. I don't want to start crying, especially when it comes to talking about, my brothers that are still locked up in there. So to me, it's not just brothers in the sense of like just the guys in the program, but all those guys in there are my brothers. They're part of the human race. They're my brothers. And
they're my brothers too.
Exactly. So, I'll just try not to make eye contact, and then I'll be done with speaking, and I'll look out and I'll see 5-6 people every time just bawling, crying, men and women. So I feel like it makes an impact in some way, and that's what keeps me doing it. And I actively seek out trying to be involved in some way. It's like, I try to get the guys coming out to do the same thing, but most of them are just so wrapped up in their life and like just trying to stay afloat, like working and go to school. Some of them aren't going to school, and that's okay. They got, they're working and they're not back in prison, so and they'll tell you, if you talk to them, they'll tell you that, yeah, I'm not in school, but that being in school changed my life, made me think of myself different as a person,
Self-worth.
Yeah.
Especially in an environment that's continually telling you you're not a human being.
Yeah.
How would someone... I'll put links on the heyhumanpodcast.com, but how would someone get a hold of you for a speaking engagement? What's the best way to reach you?
Shelby40 at iCloud.com.
A Shelby.
ASHELBY 40 at iCloud.com.
Okay. And I'll put a link for that as well.
And I don't, it's not necessarily just even like a speaking engagement. I'll go, I went to a Black Lives Matter protest, and I just try to do something. I think if you just sit and watch and you don't do anything, then you're guilty to me,
Yeah.
You gotta do something.
Do you think if you hadn't if you hadn't ended up in prison, if you hadn't made the choices that you had made, do you think you would have been this involved in humanity?
No, I'd be dead.
How do you mean?
I'd be deader in prison right now if I hadn't made a change.
No, I'm sorry, that's not what I mean. I mean, I feel like going to prison, and then you took the class and you learned who you were as a human. You did the talk fast, you did all this stuff. Do you think you would have found your way to that if you hadn't? I mean, I believe the roads are...
No, it's the best thing that happened to me. As sick as it sounds and as twisted as it is, the fates have decided, or whatever, that had to happen to me in order to be who I am, and hopefully
and now you're
make an impact. Yeah, I just, it's like you said earlier, if one person changes their mind about people that are incarcerated, or if I bring awareness to somebody like, wow, I didn't know this was happening inside prisons, or, it's like you can't hold people captive and feed them the smallest amount of food that you can, and the worst kind of food that you could eat that you wouldn't feed your dog, and then expect them to act like human beings, or you take somebody that's not, I wasn't really a criminal, but I was put in this position where it's like, you take somebody that's not a violent criminal, you know. So most people that have drug charges, they're not violent.
No, and the people that are buying the drugs are making their own personal choices.
Yeah. So then you throw them in prison, and now I'm forced to become an animal. You know, now I am a criminal. You know, and so most guys come out and they're worse and not better, and it's not. I mean, I can't make excuses for them. It's a choice. I made a choice.
I understand.
But I'm also a white male. I'm not black. So that makes a huge difference. Most of the black guys that I knew in there, they're just.
That's it.
That's it. That's what they are. They don't have a choice.
There's no hope.
And there's not for most of them. I mean, I guess they could try to make it to change, but they're gonna meet way more obstacles than I am. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's at the end of the day, I can't make excuses for them, but I can say that the system that they are a part of now, and they're never not a part of that system, is sick, and it's
a cancer.
Yeah, it's sick.
Absolutely,
it's sick. And I mean, come on, let's think 100 years from now. So if 1 in 100 Americans is incarcerated or has been incarcerated or on some type of probation, that's a real statistic. 1 in 100.
That's amazing.
Imagine 100 years from now. Now you have this whole population of people that hate the government, that are criminal, have been criminalized, have been pushed to the side. You know, you got a lot of angry people, and you got generations of that, and families in the whole entire neighborhoods where everybody's dad's locked up. So it's just like this,
and it's perpetuating. It's so self-fulfilling. It's
just sick. I mean, if you think about my story, I had that's all I had to look up to were people in prison or people that were on their way to prison. And so it's like, who was teaching me how to be a man? You know, other kids. You know, we were teaching each other how to be men. Yeah. So it's like, that's sick. You know, it sucks when you have all those fathers, and now increasingly higher numbers of mothers being incarcerated, you know. So
the world is broken.
I'm not saying people don't make choices. I just think that you can create a better way of rehabilitating them.
I agree with you completely.
And you know what you call your system a Department of Correction, and it's like, so what are you correcting in me? You're saying that I'm, in some way, different from everyone else, or and in a bad way.
They're not correcting anything. Yeah, they're making it worse.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to. It's like, and you're just not. What are you correcting? You know, you're not rehabilitating. You're not correcting. You have these programs in place, but it's all for show, just to get more money from the federal government. Because if they don't have X amount of programs, they don't get money from the government, and so then the money stops. They don't make money.
Yeah, it's incentivized to keep people in prison. There's an Annie DeFranco song where she said, this is referring to people who are black that are incarcerated, where she said, you know, lynching is frowned upon. We've moved on to the electric chair.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be that. A life sentence is the same thing. It's a death sentence.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks Harlem Peas for hooking us up.
Yeah, and again, I'll put links on the HeyHumanPodcast.com so that if anybody wants more information, they can get it. All right, bye everybody. Big love.